Hello and welcome to On Point. My name is Gail Moscoso. Today we're going to be talking about how elementary schools are being forced to cut programs due to statewide budget cuts and what one nonprofit organization is doing to prevent it. At a school in Burbank, these children are busy painting away for a weekly art project. But budget cuts being imposed all over California are threatening their chance for this creative outlet as funding gets cut. Arts and music are taking some of the biggest hits because bigger chunks of money are now going to heavily tested subjects like reading and math.
Yellow and red for the leaves up on top.
Second grade teacher Jennifer Artiga says budget cuts have forced an increase in her class size, making it hard to make more time for art projects.
We don't get to do it very often. Academics has taken a definite focus, obviously, and as it should be. It's, as you can tell, very noisy. I'm here by myself. I have 27 kids in the class where I used to have only 20. And it's one person trying to do 27 things at one time. It doesn't work.
Last year, Governor Schwarzenegger proposed a $1.3 billion cut with another $4.2 billion cut proposed for the current school year. Statewide, more than 30,000 teachers and school employees were also laid off in the last year. With more cuts expected, children may be seeing a future without music and arts.
Well, maybe if like...
Lindsay says classes are important for people to become good at their craft.
If they took away art and maybe like music classes, it would be like kind of like artists wouldn't really know how to paint, and singers wouldn't know really how to sing.
Studies show a combination of subjects, including arts, can arguably help a child in school by giving them a chance to exercise different parts of their brain and also providing an outlet for creative expression. Joining us today is the Executive Director of the Arts and Education Aid Council, Spike Dolomite Ward. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so my first question is, how badly are schools being affected by the budget cuts?
Well, in LAUSD, which is the school district that Arts and Education Aid Council serves, it's the worst year that I've seen so far in my experience of being an arts advocate and a parent in the system in the last 10 years. And I think that next year it'll probably be even worse than this year. So it's bad.
Okay, and why do you think arts is taking a back seat to all other academic subjects?
Well, if you're going to ask me, I'm going to say it's priorities. Ask somebody else and they'll say it's just about money, but you only have so much money, and it's got to go to several different things, or many different things. So when the superintendent is having to look at all the different ways that the LAUSD has to spend its money, and a big portion of it is all stuff that's legally protected. So you've got all these many different programs that have to be funded if there's money in it or not, if there's money to provide for those programs or not. And if there isn't enough money to cover all those different programs, it's got to come out of that general fund where everything else gets paid for with teacher salaries and that kind of stuff. So they got to protect all those programs that are protected by law, which means there's less and less money in the general fund where the arts programs are being, funded too. So you have to look at that big picture and say what's going to go. And historically, it's usually the arts programs that usually get the biggest hit.
Okay, and as a parent, what made you want to step in and start, the Arts and Ed Council?
Well, I was lucky enough to have gone to public schools in Jefferson County, Colorado, and I was just born artistic. So I had all these innate talents that my family supported. But also when I went to school, there were just so many arts and music programs that's where I fit. That was my thing. So I had all kinds of family and school support from grades K through 12. And I, of course, took that all for granted because that's what kids do. And didn't know that this wasn't something that wasn't going to just be a part of every kid's life forever. And until I got married and had my first son. And we sent him to the neighborhood school in Reseda, and I wanted to get involved and help out in the classroom. And one of the ways I thought I could be of most help would be to teach art, because I was already doing that out of my studio in my backyard. So I went in and I started working with the kids, and I could see right away that they just didn't have basic supplies. And I was a new mom to the system, so it was very shocking to me because I didn't understand how all of this worked. So I just took it upon myself to do what I needed to do so that I could get the supplies to the school. And then one thing led to another, and very soon after I ended up starting the nonprofit. So we ended up doing more than just the visual art program. We do a lot of other things too.
Okay, and how bad did the San Fernando Valley Public Schools, how badly did they need the arts programs?
Well, at that time, 10 years ago, very badly. They didn't have anything. And, but at the same time, the district itself, LAUSD, had just started its own program, and at that time they called it their 10-year plan, where they were putting a lot of money into hiring specialists who would go out into the elementary schools and then teach a team of teachers 4 different arts disciplines. And the expectation was then that those 4 teachers would, or however many teachers, would teach the rest of the teachers all these art subjects. So it's a great idea, and they were getting, they were having some success with that, but because of money and time constraints, it wasn't going to all the kids. The programs weren't hitting all the kids in every school. So I'd say that at the time that both Arts and Education Aid Council and the LAUSD 10-year plan came about at the same time, there was a desperate need for arts education programs in schools.
Okay, and how is the Arts and Ed Council, how has it helped to offset the budget cuts? Like, what are you guys doing to help them out?
Well, we aren't big enough to really help the entire school district with its problem. What we aim to do is to just help schools, one school at a time in the San Fernando Valley. So we're more useful if we can go in and help one school and make sure that every kid in that school is affected, opposed to taking whatever resources we have and spreading it out amongst many different schools. That means that's what I call a salt and pepper effect. So we prefer to commit ourselves to, right now we're in 3 different schools, and we stay with those same kids year after year after year. So they're getting all these great things, and they leave elementary school and move on to middle school with a really solid arts background. And then now our organization is giving more support to those middle schools that those kids are going into, so that we can follow them and support the programs that those schools already have in place.
Okay, and from personal experience, how do you think art combined with academic subjects can help benefit a child?
Oh, let's see. Well, for some kids, school is just a big drag. So if we can trick kids into liking learning through the arts, you're going to get a kid more fully engaged in the school experience. If you've got a really creative kid who is going to be bored to death by sitting all day long and learning in one particular style, they're not going to learn very much. So a lot of the creative kids need to get up and move around. They're going to need to be given different types of things to do to be able to take the knowledge that they're being given, absorb it, and then express it in a different way. So I think they need to be integrated so that really creative kids can be successful at school too. And I think that the academically inclined kids, they need the arts just as much as those creative kids do, because they need the challenge. So I think that integrating the arts into a full curriculum it's insane not to, really.
Okay, and how can teaching only specific subjects, like only reading, only math, like how can that hinder the child's education?
Well, like I was saying, with creative kids, that's just a setup for failure. The idea is you want to pump these, you want them to be successful with the math and the reading, so let's bore them to death all day long and force feed them stuff that they don't have a natural interest in, or maybe they would be better at these subjects if something hadn't happened earlier in their life to put them, put them off track. So we just need all these other ways besides arts even, just to make things, make students feel more successful at school.